Hello, everybody. I'm Raina from Garden District Bookshop, and I want to welcome you to Virtual Happy Hour. Tonight, I will be talking to Michael Tisserand. He is a local author and friend of the bookstore. He's the author of Kingdom of Zydeco, the Eisner Award-winning biography Krazy about the Crazy Cat creator George Herriman, and the upcoming My Father When Young, a photography book, actually full of photography by his dad. So I'm going to click this button here and welcome Michael to the show.
Hi, Raina. Good to see you here.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see anybody anywhere these days. Great to see. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, Raina?
Doing pretty good. Hanging in there, just like everybody else.
Good.
One of the great things about Virtual Happy Hour is this outlet to get out into the world and really have a sit-down conversation. We don't just have to be like, hey, and walk away.
I've been so impressed and grateful with people who aren't sort of desperately trying to keep old traditions going that don't quite work during this time, but are kind of reinventing it. There's this guy, Ben Modell, who teaches silent. He does scoring for silent comedies, and he usually spends the year going around playing live for silent comedies. He created this every Sunday afternoon silent comedy watch party where he sits in his apartment in Manhattan and plays music and shows old movies. You know, stuff like that. You know, or like Alex McMurray every Tuesday night. You know, he's become. At some point, I will check in, you know, with Alex and what he's playing, even for a song or two. You know, every Tuesday, or another friend of mine doing the same thing every Sunday. So anyway, I'm just grateful for people figuring out ways to keep things going and invent things like we are so good at doing here in New Orleans to meet the time.
Right. I love how these virtual events are letting us see kind of a different side of, like, Alex McMurray. I've seen him on stage a million times. I've said hi to him a few times. I don't know him very well, but when you see these live streaming events that he's doing, it's much more sort of interactive, and you get to, like, I don't know, he talks to you, you know. And
I've never seen him interact with his kid before.
Right? And you get this you get to see my living room, you know, like you get to see in a little bit of slice of people that you may have only seen in a movie or on stage somewhere.
Right. Yeah, we've lost. Of course, we've lost a lot, but there are things we've gained too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's pieces like that we might miss when we go back. Like I want to see everybody on stage and the big shows, and I want to do all that. But I think after a while, a little time will go by and be like, oh, I wonder what they're really doing. You haven't seen them in a while.
How's Alex and his kid getting along together these days?
Right? How's that going? Anne, hi. Thank you for tuning in. And anybody who's watching, please at any point comment. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions at any point for me or for Michael about anything, books and anything, comics and photography, whatever you got, throw them in the comments and we will answer them. We'll find the answer on the internet for you somewhere. It'll be good.
Or we'll make it up.
We're going to come up with something creative. You'll like the answer. It'll be fine. So it's happy hour. So what are you drinking, Michael? What you got?
So I'll tell you what I wanted to get, but they only open at 5. My favorite quarantine drink has been the Blackberry Bramble at Brightson's restaurant, but they're open right at 5, so I wanted to go get one of those to go. It's very good.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah, it's terrific, and he's got like a seafood gumbo for Lent going on right now. But since they opened at 5, I couldn't get it in time, so I made myself an old fashioned.
That'll do.
Let's see, with 2 cherries, because yes, I am an adult, and I feel really sad when the single cherry is gone.
You can put as many cherries, and that's one of the joys of being an adult. How many cherries can you afford? That's how many cherries you can put in there.
Dump them in. And the bourbon is a Smooth Ambler, which is originally a bourbon house that was managed and owned by a friend of mine, Taylor Gallion, who is one of my Laissez Boy brothers. So anyway, I drink this, Taylor, to you and to everyone else who got through Mardi Gras. Happy Lent.
Right. Yes.
And what are you drinking, Raina?
So this is just Sprite and vodka. That's what.
There's no just about that.
No, 2 staples in my house, Sprite and vodka. So stick them together in my little kitty cat cup, and we're good to go. I know we have a couple of people watching from Texas today, so I I just want to send all of our thoughts and love and warm thoughts to you. You're tuning in, so you have electricity. Yay!
Yeah, Texas and Lake Charles,
I know.
which is a place I love because on the Zydeco travel, I spent some wonderful times in Lake Charles. And a friend of mine's running for mayor there, Sean Ardwan, the Zydeco musician. Sean Ardwan's running for mayor of Lake Charles, a Zydeco mayor.
Oh, that would be awesome.
But they're hurting right now too, as they've been, throughout the year. Walt Handelman did that really great cartoon. I think it said, "Don't forget Lake Charles," and there's a bunch of people holding flashlights to illuminate their faces. But yeah, and I have family in Texas, and of course we all have friends in Texas, and Texas was a big part of our Katrina, our city's Katrina story as well. So
we have these opportunities to sort of give back.
Yep.
I welcome those opportunities as much as I don't want anyone else to be suffering. When that happens, it gives you a moment to go, okay, this is my time. This is what have I got? What I have time? Do I have $20? Do I have, well wishes? What do you have?
Yeah. Yep.
For sure. So you have a new book in May. It's coming out in May.
May 18th is the publishing date. Tuesday.
The official publishing date, because you're self-publishing it this time. So
it is.
How has that been?
It's a completely new adventure. And this book just completely found me. One of my quarantine projects, I've been working on, various things. I have some book proposals that have been out there and this and that. But during the quarantine, my father died about 8 years ago, and he was a pack rat. In fact, so he was a salesman all of his life, a stockbroker for the last half of his life, but he worked selling eyeglasses. And this is the kind of thing I found when I started going through these boxes that I just shoved away after he passed away. I brought them all to New Orleans and just put them under the bed and in the closet. I started finding things like this. It says an eye for an eye. And it says American Optical Company. And you open it up and ooh, there it is right there.
Oh, good.
It's an eye. It's a little.
It wasn't messing around.
A little eyeball, yeah. So
those are his samples that he would take to people.
I don't know. Here, there you go. Good look at it there. So anyway, and then he was a pack rat. There were just 10 years of pay stubs. Things that went back 2 or 3 generations, into my family that I couldn't, photos. There was one old photo book that I remember I did ask him about that. And he said, yeah, I don't know who these people are either. This went back, 19th century photographs. There was a general ledger from Braggadocio, Missouri from the 1890s that an ancestor of mine had been, the postmaster. So I actually I found the Missouri State Historical Society and sent that to them. And part has been like figuring out what to do with this stuff. And then I found, it's actually right over there, but I found this box. I found, and inside were these 2 metal slide containers that I never knew about. And I started taking out the slides and looking at them. And I was just shocked. Well, at first I thought, how did my dad get these slides? Because they're slides taken by a photographer. These are taken by a photographer. These are not just snapshots of families standing in front of Christmas trees or something like that. This is street photography across Europe, and Mardi Gras in New Orleans in 1959. And they're composed and they're interesting photographs. And they look like something you can maybe see in Life magazine in the 1950s. And then I realized he took them. Wow. And then I found these letters that he wrote back from when he was overseas with the Army in the 1950s. And he talks about going down to the PX on the base and buying a camera and how excited he is to buy a camera. And so he went across Europe taking photographs whenever he was on leave from the Army. And then he came back to his home in southern Indiana, Evansville, Indiana. That's where I was born. And he took these really intimate photos of friends of his at weddings or at parties. But he was kind of a fly on the wall at his own friends' parties. You see these pictures that are just they're documentary photographs. And then he came. Then the biggest shock, he came to New Orleans for Mardi Gras in 1959, and he never told me. And he loved it. He came here all the time, to visit. He loved La Use. A perfect afternoon with Dad would be to go to La Use's for lunch and to go to Angelo Mercado's afterwards. And he just loved that part of New Orleans, that kind of street corner life in New Orleans. But he just never told me about Mardi Gras. The whole thing's kind of a big mystery. I got in touch with his sister, my Aunt Rosie, and she kind of gave me background on some of the photos. And I got in touch with his closest friend in the last 20 years of his life, this guy, Bill. And I asked him, had you ever heard of these slides? And he had not. So, because I wondered, maybe Dad took them out and showed them to his friends, and I just didn't, we didn't live together, and I just didn't know about it. But no, and I asked him, I asked Bill why, he said, well, maybe they remind him of some, painful memories. And his mother died. My dad's mom died when he was young. And then, that 10 years during the time the photographs were taken, was kind of fairly shortly after that. And I think it was a tough time for him.
Was your dad a particularly creative person outside? I mean, you say his job doesn't sound particularly creative, but...
Well, it was in the sense that sales is creative, so
like social media is creative.
Exactly. Like talking on StreamYard.com is the most creative thing in the world. No, he was a stockbroker. He was a salesman. He was a salesman I found popcorn bags from when he was a child and had a string of popcorn stands in Indiana. And he kept his ledger. There's like written hand ledger of his popcorn sales and these bags, these paper bags. So he was always looking for a hustle, in some way. And so he sold cars and he sold eyeglasses and I think he sold insurance and he sold a couple other things. And then he found stockbroking, which for him was, it was very creative. It was very different than what it is now. He would just investigate companies, and he's kind of known for finding little out of the way companies and recommending them to clients and things like that. And that was hugely important to him. His work was, he lived for his work too. And that's, I guess, when he had reached the retirement age, he wasn't left with a lot that really creatively stimulated him. And that's where I wish that photography would have been something he kept up.
Right. And if you had known, you're such a creative person, right? And if you had known about these things, easily you could have said, hey, here's a camera.
Let's have a slideshow. Yeah.
Right?
I wish I've thought who could have gone back and looked at these slides. But, on the other hand, he kept them and he left them for me. They were there at the bottom of a box for me to find and try to make sense of at some point. So I feel like
here we are.
So here we are. So I see these slides and I find them really remarkable. I put a bunch on Facebook, and real photographers start responding to them. Because I thought, it's my dad. I have no judgment about this at all, and no objective judgment. So I hear from Cheryl Gerber and John McCusker and David Ray Morris, and all these. We have an embarrassment of riches of great photographers in New Orleans, and more than one of them say, "Well, you're going to do a book of this, right?" So I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I guess so. Yes.
So it was just, and it was too weird to. If they were all Mardi Gras photos, I would have maybe tried to pursue one of our local publishers. But a third is Europe, a third is Indiana, a third is Mardi Gras, and so it just kind of screamed, let's try to self-publish these. So I contacted, So this friend of mine, Mike Sager, who's an Esquire editor, he wrote. There's a number of books of his writing. Scary Monsters and Super Freaks is one of my favorite anthologies of his. Super Freak from his Rick James profile, a kind of a legendary profile. But he's an old friend and kind of helped push me into writing actually back in the 80s. And he's now working with something called the Sager Group to try to help writers self-publish. And he has a design team and he does ebooks and things like that. So I worked with him on putting this into a book form, and here we are.
All right. Well, I'm putting the link to the book in the chat. Everyone, you can go check it out.
And thanks to people like Raina at Garden District Bookshop and our friends in independent bookstores in New Orleans, you can pre-order it.
Yes, you can. You can click that link, go to the website, pre-order it. Michael's going to sign them for us when they come in. If you want it personalized, put in the comments of your website order what the personalization is that you want, and we'll get them personalized when they come out.
I will an excuse to come down to the store.
Right.
So the whole like self-publishing thing, I have no idea about, like how to go about doing it. So it's been a big lesson. I've talked to a few people locally who've done some self-publishing. Echo Olander, who had an event with her comrades with that amazing book. I want to do that. The Mardi Gras book. So
yes.
she gave me some things that she discovered along the way. But every decision, what the paperweight is going to be, how many books to print, all that kind of thing. So, but it's been, I don't see myself wanting to do this with every book, but I'm really excited. I'm very excited to do it with this book, though. Yeah.
Oh. Do you have a question? Do you have a favorite photo? Okay, is your favorite photo in the ones that you're going to share with us? Because we can. So Michael has some pictures. We're going to share screen. Try this for the first time.
I just saw the comments. Hey, Richard, a high school friend, Michael Patrick Welch.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, folks. Okay, I'm sorry. What'd you say, Raina? I just.
No problem. Sorry. Yeah, no, the comments have been just going over here. People are here. They're watching. They're saying hi. Yeah. So we have a question. Did you find a favorite photo?
Yeah.
And then, is that photo in the ones that you're going to share with us?
It is.
Okay. All right. Do you want to do that now? Do you want to try this whole screen sharing thing?
3 favorite photos, actually. I've got 1 favorite photo from each section. So, yeah. And actually I put some photos in here that are not in the book as well.
I'm going to click the button here and we're going to see what happens.
We're going to have a quick slideshow here.
This is the first time that we've tried screen sharing. So we tested it earlier. Just give us a moment to make it perfect. It'll be perfect momentarily.
I just hit share. Is it working?
I think you need to go to the screen behind. Oh, there we go. Yep, it's working.
All right. Don't look, everybody. There we go. Okay, so
ta-da.
You can see my screen. Okay, so this is the cover.
Yep.
Photographs by Jerry Tisserand. Introduction by Michael Tisserand. Not having, I sort of made a study of small. This is there's about 60 photographs. The book is not huge. It's not big coffee table size. I wanted to make it affordable. It'll be $25. I want to make it affordable. So I went and just did a little study of smaller photo books, one by Eudora Welty, one by Walker Evans, and then the Robert Frank book, The Americans, which is kind of the great classic street photography with that great picture of black and white folks on a streetcar in New Orleans on the cover. And when Jack Kerouac did the intro for that. So those were kind of the models I was looking at. And then the title, My Father When Young, I think there's kind of 2 narratives of the book, or 2 stories of the book that kind of interlock. And one is Dad's story, and taking these photographs, and the other is kind of my story, meeting my father before I was born. So there's the slides. That's what I found in the bottom of the book. There are 2 boxes like that. That's not a book that's not a photo from the book, and this is not from the book either. But I thought I'd show a couple slides of my dad that were part of the collection there. I'm not sure where this was taken. One of the projects I did, especially for the European photos, was figuring out where every photograph was taken. There was one taken, two photos from the Netherlands, and I was trying to figure out where they were. So my wife has a friend and colleague from the Netherlands, and he said, well, traditional dresses are distinct to every town. So I found from the dresses of the girls in the photographs, where the photos were taken. But that's Dad. There's another shot of Dad, who's about half my age that I am now, taken in this photo when he's over in Europe
And these are photos he took like when he had weekends off or whatever from. And
right.
What was he? He was in the military.
Yeah, he was in the Army. He worked as an accountant in the Army for his time over there in Orleans, France.
And Paul says the colors are so vivid, and they truly are. Did you do anything to these photos? Like, what was the process of getting them?
A good friend of mine, Philip Foster. Well, I did two things. First of all, I sent them to a commercial company that scans. These are Kodachromes, by the way. These are all Kodachrome slides. So I sent them to a company that does professional scanning, and I strongly discourage anybody from doing that. They did a horrible job. And then once I start, but I did get a chance to get a better look at the photos. And then a friend of mine, Philip Foster, who has mad skills at photography and photo technology in Birmingham, Alabama, very sweetly and generously did the scanning work for me. But no, these are the photos as they are in the slides. There were some scratches and some dust that Philip took care of, but that's most of what he did. There were some that were dark that he lightened up. So this is one of my three favorites. This is taken. Oh man, I forgot the name of it. I think it's in Barcelona. This is, but the upper right corner it actually says the place in Barcelona where this was taken. There's a, Vivian Maier, the photographer, who had this sort of secret life. There's a great documentary about her. That is sort of a much greater version of this story of my dad, because she was a lifelong photographer and took incredible work with a lot of discipline and stayed with the work. But I saw Laura Lippman. You sell her books. So she did an introduction to Vivian Maier photo book, and she wrote, "In seeing someone see her, I sense Maier's presence." And I've had that experience with a number of these photos, and seeing someone see my dad, I can feel my dad's presence in these photos. I'm looking at this kid, looking at my dad, and the photo itself, the composition, these shadowy figures in the back, the little guy, with the little boxing stance. I love that photo. I love this one too. This is a wedding procession. I just love the kind of the juxtaposition of this traditional wedding procession, and then this woman riding by, this blue kind of blur of a woman riding by on her bicycle.
It's so she's just trying to get to work or something.
Right.
She's just trying to get by. And it does, Paul said that it looks like the Gothic Quarter and about the last photograph. And it's so true. Like, we see these moments in the French Quarter and other places around New Orleans where these major life events are happening, and they're so special for this person or this couple. And we're just like trying to go buy groceries. Like, we just live here. And he's captured that same sort of moment in this photo for sure.
I also like it because it bizarrely reminds me of the wedding scene in The Godfather, or The Godfather Part 2, which is the one where he goes back to Italy.
I'm not going to be an expert on that.
Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. Somebody in the comments, please let me know. I think it's Godfather 2 though. So this is one of a few photos that my dad took. He sort of did a little photojournalism exercise when Marshal Tito was going to the Yugoslavian president do be in part of a parade going down the Champs-Élysées. So I took a few photographs, but I included one just here. This is a guard, getting ready for Tito to go down. This is 1956, I believe. One thing that's really cool, another photograph shows a camera crew, which you can actually see Tito and the president of France in a car, and a camera crew on a Jeep going alongside filming Tito. And then I went on YouTube and found the film that camera crew was making.
The internet. The internet. You could get it all.
So this is not in the book, but so my dad, when he got out of the Army, he went back to Evansville, Indiana, where he lived for the rest of his life. And this is right in front of the Ohio River at this his grandfather's cabin, which my grandfather let my dad and his sister throw a lot of wild parties there. So this is Dad. Dad's the one that looks a little bit like Buddy Holly there, on the second from the right, next to the guy with the cigarette coming out of his between his teeth there, kind of Andy Capp style. And Dad's nickname at this time was Slats, S-L-A-T-S, because he was so tall and thin, like, you know. So anyway, I love this photo. So I thought I'd show it here, but this is actually not in the book. But this one is. This is that same party place, which is actually right across the Ohio River in Kentucky, near Henderson, Kentucky. And this is just this is the book cover. And then this is the wider shot. I don't know a lot of the people in the photographs, but the woman to the left there is Rita Stone, who was a good friend of my parents, and I knew growing up. It's been many times at her house.
And we don't know the story of what is happening here. Why?
I guess at some point, this man and this woman said, we can stand on our heads. Let's go show you. I guess. I think they were. I wonder.
Okay, here's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing more of sort of a contest situation. Who can do it better? Who can do it longer? Maybe. And the photo is just a bonus to this. Right. Who made it longer?
That could be. I can stand on my head longer than you can. I can stand on my head longer than you can. Let's go behind the cornfield.
Longer than you. Exactly. See what happens.
And then this is one more photo from that time. This is a New Year's Eve photo, and this is what I mean. This was a party Dad was at. He probably had one of these hats on his heads, And the fact that he was going around taking photos like this is even more remarkable to me than the fact that he was going around Europe taking photos, because he was sort of both inside and outside of his community here. He was both participating and also viewing it as an artist, creating these kind of compositions. Anyway, I love this photo.
So these photos here they're after he came back from Europe.
Right.
Correct. So I wonder if he just, he picked up that hobby in Europe and then kept with it after he came back for a few years.
For a few years, yeah. And he shot photos, he wrote. I don't know that anybody saw these photos, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. He did say in one of his letters from Europe that he was very proud of his photos and said, I'll send you photos of the landmarks, but I want to try to take pictures of things that no one else has taken pictures of, which is really remarkable. I talked to a friend because I was wondering where his ideas for these kind of photos came from. Like, even when he said that in a letter, because he wouldn't have gone to a modern art museum, and he certainly wouldn't have seen Robert Frank's book, which was being shot at the same time Dad took these photos, or he wouldn't have seen Walker Evans' photographs probably. I forgot to mention this, but a friend mentioned, don't discount that Life magazine was probably in his house. It was in every house, and that was some of the finest photography. Reaching right into journalism, right to folks like my dad. Who might have, I can imagine, saw the photos and was affected by them and wanted to try to recreate that kind of those kind of feelings through photographs. This photographer Douglas.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna interrupt you with the comment right here.
Yeah.
The girl dance. Linda is my mom. So Linda is my mom, and the girl. She says the girl dancing at the party in the party hat. So dancing in the party hat, I guess, on the left, looks like my cousin Bessie Lee. The time period is right, and she lived in Louisville.
Well,
do you know who that is?
No, but that's fantastic. So let me know after this, because I don't know who that is, and I'll throw that name out at my Aunt Rosie and see.
Yeah, throw the name out. You can email me this particular photo. I could show it to because that's my family, right? My mom's cousin is my cousin. So
from Louisville, yeah. So this is Evansville, which is very, very, very near Louisville. And I thought you were going to comment on Philip Foster and I spent a long time trying to figure out what kind of. At first, he thought it was a flaw in the photo, but that's some kind of earring that on that woman's ear, this kind of turquoise, multiple stone netted earring there. Do you see that? I couldn't quite think who that was. But anyway,
it's pretty.
Douglas Baas, his book Cajun Document, photographs that he took in Lafayette and around Lafayette in the 1970s. But he made a comment on Facebook. My dad's camera was a Bellera Bella, a German camera, and he went into detail about the focus. Everything was manual. Everything was that my dad had to do was manual, and taking a photograph like this was not. Douglas said it was a mighty task. It was not an easy thing to do. It was not like our phone pictures these days.
You don't just pull your phone out and click it and then move on about your day.
Yeah. So anyway, the next. All right. So here we go. Mardi Gras. I'd love to find out about the Louisville thing. The work that I put into was trying to find the 1959 revelers of Mardi Gras that my dad photographed, and I had no success at all. I contacted Wayne Phillips, who Dad came down to Mardi Gras. I recreated the trip as best as I could with a few friends. They drove down. They stayed at the Monteleone. They went to Zulu. They went to Rex, and then they turned and went into the quarter on Carnival Day on Tuesday. And a lot of what he shot was gay carnival. And it's really remarkable. So I contacted Wayne Phillips, who created that great gay carnival exhibit at Louisiana State Museum, and Howard Phillips Smith. I hope his book Unveiling the Muse.
Yeah, we have that on the shelf. We've done a couple of events with him.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful book, and then I went on to a Facebook group and put all of my dad's Mardi Gras photos and said, can anybody identify anybody? Is anybody still around? And I had no success at all. No one could find. So if anybody knows who the devil is, or the guy in the red and white shirt standing sort of straight next to the devil, or the woman looking over her shoulder, I would love to know. But this was taken in 1959. Another amazing thing from these photos is nobody else is taking pictures. Right now, this photo would have 50 people gathered around with their phones out or something like that. Here's another. This is another one of those Laura Lippman moments for me. Where in seeing someone see my dad, I'd see this guy getting out of his car with "Need a husband, need a whiff." Painted sloppily on the front of it, and he's joking with my dad. He's got a very funny expression on his face, and I think my dad's making a joke to him, and he's making a joke back. So, by the way, a lot of the more Mardi Gras photos I are online. Garden and Gun magazine did an online article about the Mardi Gras photos a couple weeks ago that people can find as well.
I'll find the link to that here and post it for everybody.
I get to title all the photos. That was one of the things I got to do. I titled this one Paul Mall. So you see for the cigarette sticking out of his waist there. Again, I would love to know who these individuals are. But especially when I talk with Wayne Phillips and with Howard Phillips Smith, this was very, very early on, in establishing gay carnival traditions. And within a few years of these photographs, there would be this real, ugly outing by the daily newspaper of celebrants who were busted at a gay, that story. So there was a real sense of not just celebration and carnival joy, but a real defiance and a real, real pride in these photographs that I just love that my dad took. There's a lot of dignity and joy and people having fun together, across boundaries. I don't think my dad sat down to create a document of gay carnival at a time when there's very few photographs taken of gay carnival. That's what he did.
It's one of those things you don't realize you're doing it until, years later, and you look back at what's happened and that you realize what you have.
Yeah. And this is, I think, my favorite.
I was about to say, I kind of love this photo.
Yeah, I think this is the last photo I have here. It took me a while to look. This is just a photo that just keeps on giving. But it took me a while even to realize that she was dressed as Lady Godiva. And she's got the kind of bodysuit on, and you see a little horse head, a little hobby horse head.
Yes.
She's not. And the gentleman with her, kind of got this W.C. Fields sort of look about him, with whatever's left of his tuxedo is on him, and his mask on his forehead, and his top hat kind of almost unnaturally tilting off the top of his head. There's just so many multiple narratives in this photograph.
I kind of love this little girl because someone here. She belongs to someone here, clearly. But who? You can't tell. None of the birds seem to be keeping any kind of eye on her at all. And the poor girl looks like she's been up since 5 a.m. and she's walked in one of the early morning parades, and now she's been drugged into the corner, and she's just like, come on, Mom.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Look at it. Call it a day.
Even one boot is falling down on her right leg there. So she's just like, I'm going to hang here next to the fire plug.
Right. Just going to attach myself to this. They'll know where to come back and get me. That's probably very accurate.
Yeah, she's got a frosty mug, like the kind they have at Liuzza's. He's got a bottle in his hand. She's clearly the only sober one on the street corner.
Yes.
The girl.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's
okay. Put it back.
That's it. Can we get off the screen here?
We did. So now you can come back.
So there's
So how many photographs are in the book?
I'm sorry, I'm lost on this screen here.
Well, we can see you just fine.
Oh, okay.
You'll
there we go. Okay,
we'll find it eventually.
There's 58 photographs.
And how many did you find? So how many did you have to sift through to narrow down to this 58?
There were some tough calls, and actually Philip found a few that I thought were not workable, and they were dark. And he found a photograph in the darkness that I didn't know existed. There's one of a couple guys, on this dirt road in Kentucky, leaning up on this green color television repair truck, and that's one of I love that photo. But there were a lot of the Mardi Gras photos. There were a lot that were interesting historically, but weren't as they were wrecks. The wrecks float coming down the street, that kind of thing. Lots of night photos that were pretty dark. There were a few tough calls, but this was pretty much the ones that announced that they should be in the book. They seem pretty clear. Yeah.
Are those photos that are of wrecks, and are you providing those to anywhere to use as part of archives? I don't know. Do you just hold on to those? How does that work?
I don't know.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. That's actually been one of my little quarantine projects has been to find homes for things. So actually donated all of my Kingdom of Zydeco field recordings to the Center for Akkadian and Creole Studies at University of Louisiana Lafayette a few months ago. And I would think that somebody in New Orleans, my friends at Historic New Orleans Collection, perhaps, might want the New Orleans photos. But I also want to keep the photos together. So I'm not quite sure, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. But my hope is to have a show next Mardi Gras. That's of the Mardi Gras photos. Yeah. So that's a hope. And otherwise, right. I do want to find a home for all of these slides at some point.
Right. With things like that, it's like this internal struggle of it belongs to you and your family and your dad. And then also just, when you're gone, then where do they go? And who else are you burdening with these, keeping track of these things? where do you let them out to have this other life?
Yeah.
When do you do that?
Right. Hi, Ben Yagoda.
You're back in the comments. You can see the comments again.
It's a little tempting.
No, you should. Absolutely. That's what they're there for. The comments are there to be read and to be interacted with.
and hi to my mom. My mom, I think, is in Minnesota watching.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Mom.
Yeah. So she married my dad. Their marriage didn't last, but she married my dad in 1961. And she does not remember him taking photographs at all by that point. And that was just 2 years after the Mardi Gras trip.
Right. And he had these
2 years after that.
I mean, he freshly had these slides and right there, he was moving them in boxes. She had no idea.
Yeah.
They were coming in with him. They were going out with him.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly right. I mean, he did make a conscious decision to keep this. Well, he made a decision to keep everything. So that's not that unusual. If I could turn this around, I'd show you. I also have a miniature bottle collection that he had in Europe that I kept. I've got about 300 little miniature bottles in the corner of my office.
That's so many. It's so many. Yeah, it's not just like, oh, I've got a couple of souvenirs. It's like when he went in, he went all in.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're the type of person who is a pack rat like that, I could see if somebody came in with like 20 boxes, I'm like, I don't need to go through all these. Like if there's 2 or 3 like into a relationship or something, I'm like, oh, what's in your boxes? But it's like 20, it's old crap. You go through 2, you realize it's just bottles and papers, and you're like, you know what? Never mind. You're right. I believe you. Just
and after he passed away, I knew that it would be an emotional journey once I started opening these boxes. So I think that's one reason why because there's also letters that Father's Day cards that I gave him when I was 5 years old, things like that in there too. So I knew that it was going to be, I had to roll up my sleeves and get ready to spend some time. So that's one thing that I decided to do for the quarantine. And I think another reason the book made sense to me as a book is I started talking with other folks who had sort of similar experiences, that finding things out about your parents. Sometimes they are not as happy and exciting as this. Sometimes they're painful and difficult. But that discovery of figuring out who your parents were before you came around seems to be something that these photographs kind of tell that story. In addition to the story that my dad set out to tell with them, I think they also tell that story as well.
Absolutely. And that's, I guess, a silver lining sort of COVID and being forced to stay inside and be much more introspective than maybe we've had to be. Life is going on and you just keep going. You're on the wheel and you just keep going and going. And all of a sudden we had to stop. And you've got what you've got around you. And here's some boxes you haven't gone through. And here's, that checklist you haven't done. And now you're just doing that and you're sitting there. But it's, I welcomed that for me personally. And I've heard so many stories similar to what you're the story that you're telling, where you've discovered things about yourself, things about your family, things about people, rediscovered things that have been sitting in your own bottom drawer that you were like, I'll get to one day. And now's the day. And for good or for bad, but I think it's good in the long run. You got to it. You got to do it. I actually have a picture that just blew off of my bulletin board here. My high school drama teacher sent me this photo because that's me and my mom at my prom. And so I had forgotten all about this, but
can I see that?
She took a picture.
I need to see the hairstyle some more.
Oh, I don't know if I can get it like up there, but yeah. So fantastic. My drama teacher took this picture, and COVID hit, and she's going through all of her stuff, and she sent me a Facebook message, and she's like, "I have this photo. I think it's you and your mom. Send me your address." And so, why she took it? Why then she kept it for 20 some years, and then was going through her stuff, and she's like, also send this to Raina. So I got this picture that I never would have had, and didn't know existed, just a few months ago, from my drama teacher doing the exact same thing that you were doing. Found, here are these boxes. I finally going to go through them.
Right. And trying to sort of find the right home for them, if that home exists.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Which
yeah,
I'm very grateful for.
yeah, yeah. Well, the much beleaguered United States Post Office as Postal Service has been a great connection. I've been getting more stuff in the mail from friends and putting stuff in the mail to people as well. There was some matchbooks that I just really didn't have any use for, and a friend of mine collects matchbooks. Just like Quarter Two Sisters from 1959. I think it was from that trip. And
that's going to make their day.
Yeah, I busboarded the Quarter Two Sisters, and I have nothing but bad memories of that experience. So I did not need those matchbooks around.
Yeah, it cost you a couple of bucks to put them in the mail, and it adds to their collection, makes their day. So it's great.
Yeah, I think that's another reason I think I want to do this as a self-published book is, I think it will be a beautiful little book. I think it's going to be a nice thing to be able to offer to people. And I kind of want to do it during this moment of history. So rather than spend the year it would take to possibly find a publisher, that kind of thing. I kind of want this to happen right away. So that's another. It seemed like it was from this moment.
And absolutely, in May, we're definitely still going to be enough in this moment where we go like, yep, I understand this. I remember.
Yeah, but turning the corner, 55-year-olds and up with medical conditions and working as teachers and a couple other professions start getting their vaccines on Monday. So.
I know. I keep waiting. I keep getting the text messages. One day I'm going to wake up and the text message is going to say, it's your turn. Call this number or go to this website and then wait some more.
Thank you, Linda. Linda Spencer Wannenberg sent a message. You have a treasure from your dad. Thank you. That's the way I feel too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So let's see. What do I have up here? So you said that you have, what were you working on when you came upon these photographs? Because I mean, you're writing, you're putting out books, on a regular basis. So you had to have been working on something, and then this fell in your lap. So.
Yeah, well, I've been working on various smaller projects. I've been doing a lot of writing for a website called Neotext, doing a lot of interviews of cartoonists there, which I'm really loving to do because they keep asking me to interview people that I really don't know that well. Howard Skyton, this Belgian cartoonist, whose work I had to really do a deep dive on, and it's astounding. That was a really great experience. A few months ago, we put up on the New Orleans Improv. I'm gonna get the name wrong. Sorry, Randy Fertel. The New Orleans Improvisation Conference, Improv NOLA.
Okay.
The month before everything shut down, we went to New York and interviewed the cartoonist Jules Pfeiffer, and created a film of that interview and put it up a few months ago on their website. So I've been doing various projects. The big thing that got shut down that I was very sad to press the pause button on is Krazy, my George Herriman biography, the New Orleanian George Herriman, creator of the great Krazy Kat comic strip, had been optioned as a documentary by Jonathan Hawk, who I just happen to have. If you're looking for movie recommendations, The Lost Son of Havana, which is about a baseball player that had left Cuba and returned for the first time, and Jonathan went back on that visit, and it's a beautiful documentary. So anyway, Jonathan heard me in an interview. He'd never done anything with cartoons or cartoonists, and really most of his stuff has been in the sports, human interest stories within the sports world. And he heard an interview that I did with Elvis Mitchell on Los Angeles Public Radio and contacted me. So we started the process of working on the documentary. We went and interviewed George Herriman's granddaughter together in Arizona, and that was a wonderful experience. And we had some interviews set up in New York City that got the plug pulled on them because of COVID, and then that sort of ground to a halt. So I'm so eager to get back on that project because it's a visual story, and I think there's things that can be told in a Krazy Kat documentary that aren't fully able to be told, visually, in the book that I created. I think it can stand as a great document in and of itself. So very excited. I'll be a producer and a consultant on it. Walter Mosley is a producer as well. Which I'm
Awesome.
also very excited about. And so Jonathan's still doing that documentary stuff with it, the fundraising parts and things like that. And then there is some animation that's being created, which I can show.
Yeah. Do you have it?
I have it, maybe. It's on my website, by the way. It's on michaeltisserand.com. It's 4 seconds. When Jonathan said he wants to include animation, I was very, I was a little fussy about it because I think Herriman's Crazy Cat, I don't want to touch that work. But he's like, no, I like animating George Herriman's life, like showing these moments that we can't see of his childhood or his, his life in California, that kind of thing. And so then he worked with this company and did this. It's literally just 4 seconds, and I think they've created possibly some more after that. But I was so happy to see this. It's just like little George Herriman running through the streets of New Orleans in the 1880s. And let's see if I can get to that. Am I on share?
You are.
Okay.
So don't look away because it's only 4 seconds.
Exactly. Definitely don't look away. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me make it full screen though.
That's so simple, but it's so cool.
Is it so cool? Let me pause. There's this George. So there's so much that's here. First of all, this has a kind of cross hatching. They did like a really big effort of sort of using George Herriman's style of cross hatching, which is cartoonist speak for the using lines to make shadows. And then George Herriman was always known for wearing a hat as an adult. So I just love they gave him that little outfit there. So that's all we have right now. That's all we have right now. But that plus interviews and the George Herriman story is just an amazing story of an amazing artist. And I can't wait to get back on that trail again.
Yes, and what's so really great about it is it's gonna open up his story to a whole new audience. There are often books that I see. I do this with nonfiction a lot, and I'm like, I love this. I can't wait to watch the documentary. Like I want it to be more accessible because there's some books like if you like comics, if you like want to read about New Orleanians, I can sell that book to them, but I can't. Maybe there's somebody who's maybe likes history, but I can I can't. Okay, they're gonna turn me down on Krazy. They're gonna be like, oh no, that's not what I want. Like, okay, but it's good. They're like, yeah, but I could get those people to watch a documentary. I could sell people like I'm like, okay, cool. I understand, but check out this documentary. Let me write it down for you. Here's where you can go watch it. When you change your mind, here's your book. Like, come back and get more information because you're going to change your mind. You're going to be into it. You go, oh, I need to know more about this guy. I need to know more about this comic. I've got this for you. Those, when there are especially documentaries, TV shows, when it's fiction, people feel like they already know the ending. But especially when it's nonfiction, I can then sell a book on top of that documentary because there's clearly more info in here. You had to cut it down for the hour and a half, right? So I'm looking forward to it, not only to watch it, but also to help parlay your book out into the world.
Well, thank you, Raina. And it's such a visual story that it just makes sense for a documentary too. There's a documentary that I appeared in called Dear Mr. Watterson about Bill Watterson, who created Calvin and Hobbes. And I saw that on the big screen. I think I saw this Chalmette movie theater, actually. I feel like I saw it there. But to see Calvin and Hobbes comics on the big screen was just amazing because Watterson is also an amazing artist and it translates, that art. So Herriman's work is very detailed, especially his big Sunday pages, and to see that on the big screen, if we are going to movies, then or even the TV screen will be very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. When there are when comics translate into the moving pictures, like I said, it's a whole new medium. You get a whole new group of people. And like my son, for example, like we used to say every Sunday we would get the paper and we'd read the comics. Like as kids, we wouldn't read anything else. I don't care anything else that's happening. When the paper would come in, we would sit, my sister and I would sit and we would read the comics to each other. And, we didn't realize until like years and years later, like how you're absorbing these whole long stories, which of course is the whole point. But when you're doing it, you're just like, oh, it's Sunday, it's paper. Okay, we're reading the paper. Isn't that great? Like we have all this, like we're reading the paper with the adults. And
right. I'm reading my section. Yeah, that was mine too.
Yeah.
I'm reading my section, you're reading your section.
Exactly. I don't know what the difference is. It's fine. It's good. But like this generation of kids, God, I'm old enough. I'm saying that. Like they don't have that. There's no, there's the Sunday paper with the comics, but we don't get the paper that way. I read the paper. I read it on my iPad. I don't get it in that same way. And so he doesn't absorb those things in the same way. Now he loved Calvin and Hobbes. So we got him all of the Calvin and Hobbes books, but that's how he absorbed them. I don't even know how he heard about them at first. And then we were like, oh, you like that? Let me go get all the books for you so that you can read them. Yeah,
Calvin and Hobbes is timeless, as is Peanuts. I don't know if your kid went through a Peanuts time or not, but sure. The three things I found translate amazingly well for young kids are John Stanley's Little Lulu, the original Little Lulu. Those books. Every time I give those to someone, say, have your kid read Little Lulu. They come back and go, oh my God, they went to a corner and stayed there for 4 hours. They were enraptured by these beautiful little stories about children. And then Calvin Hobbes and Peanuts. I think Charles Schulz Peanuts still. I think the depths and the melancholy of Peanuts just kind of reaches into kids' souls, and as it did mine when I was reading the paper, when I was 10 years old.
When it's like you don't take them for granted. You treat kids. They're kids, so they need colors and they need big round faces and they need lemonade stands, but don't treat them like they're stupid. Yeah. And none of those comics do.
Right.
They're straight with them and deal with bigger topics without you even noticing.
Another one that I like that's in the paper, I do get the paper and I read the comics every day in the paper. And I got my favorites. And the one that I always liked, but really discovered was Ray Billingsley Curtis, and I did a couple interviews with him this past year. In fact,
Ray Billingsley Curtis. See, I'm writing this down.
Yeah, Curtis. So Curtis, there's African American Black cartoonists are marginalized in the papers as much or more as Black.
Oh my gosh! I just realized what you're talking about. Ray Billingsley wrote Curtis.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ray Billingsley Curtis. I heard that as one long name, and I'm like, that doesn't sound familiar at all.
Right, so Ray sent me one of his comics, which was
that's so awesome.
Yeah. So here, I'm gonna read it to you here. So there's this is a coronavirus comic. Can I have some money, Dad? What for, Curtis? The movie theater is closed, and so is the pizza parlor and the comic book shop. I just want to feel it in my pocket. I'll bet.
Yeah.
So that was actually, I encourage people to find those interviews. I did it for his alum, the college he went to, their magazine, as well as for the Daily Beast. And I just love talking with him. He's got a very keen view of Black cartoonists and Black comics in American newspapers, as well as just creating work that, Charles Schulz was kind of like a godfather to him. And I think that Curtis carries forward a lot of ideas about what you said, not talking down to kids and just telling a story. And in his coronavirus comics, he was really one of the first to really talk about issues of coronavirus. And Curtis's favorite teacher got sick. And there were some strips that were extremely touching, just extremely touching work. So there's still some good. I have
to go back and look for those. Curtis is one of the ones that I used to read in the paper all the time.
Here's another one. Here's another one I recommend. This is not in the paper. So the Times-Picayune Advocate, I know they listen to me all the time and my suggestions on what they should do, but they should get Linears. This guy, Linears, which is it's you can see it online. You can find it on and these books are available. There we go. But it's also just like an amazing piece of work. One of my favorites. You can find it, like I say, you can find it online. It's on one of those Go Comics or Comics Kingdom kind of sites where you can read all the comics.
All right, we've got some. We can order some of them on their website. So there's a link to the Linears books too.
Good, yeah, get those. Get Linears books and make a stink. Ray said that. Ray said very specifically that that when he was. This is even hard for me to repeat, but this is what Ray told me, that he kept not getting a book deal. Curtis has been around for a long time. It's a huge success story. He can't get a book deal and was told by more than one, yeah, blacks don't read, they don't buy books.
So it's ridiculous.
Right? I mean, we in this town and any town we know, but you're a bookseller. But that's
tweet all about it. I'm going to tweet all about it. Just going to send it out there.
We need a Curtis book. We need a Curtis book.
We do need a Curtis book. And now's the time. It's the history and it's still current. Like, why? And hit the nostalgia trip. I got money now. I read it when I was a kid in the paper. I'll buy it. You know, like now is the time. All right. Here we go. I'm on a new mission. Tweet all about it to all the publishers. We need a Curtis collection.
In the meantime, I recommend anybody go back, and especially that coronavirus series, to go back, and it's either Go Comics or Comics Kingdom or on Ray's website, but find that whole series and just read it all the way through. It is. I mean, it's really one of the first times I think, comics in the early 20th century were really the first time that Americans all sort of laughed at the same time at the same thing. This was before TV, before radio, but when Krazy Kat came out, or Mutt and Jeff, or Little Nemo, or whatever was coming out, that was the mass media, and we had we shared a common laugh, and the coronavirus comics for Ray Billingsley's Curtis comic was really one of the first times that we, through fiction, started to really appreciate the toll on a family that the virus and the pandemic and the shutdown was having. Through those little conversations, like that strip where a father and a son are talking about, I just want to feel some money in my pocket. And the father says, "Yeah, I bet you do. I do too." Just wonderful.
It gives you those moments. Gives you almost permission to laugh at it. Yeah, because we're sharing it. Exactly.
Because we're sharing it.
Well, Michael, we made it. We made it to 6:00. We did it.
We can do another hour.
You got nothing going on? Huh? I still got this much drink left.
My sherry is still down there.
I've learned to pace myself in almost a year of doing virtual happy hours. Didn't start that way. In case my bosses are still watching, it is currently going that way though.
Raina, did you do all those links while we were talking?
Yes.
You don't have somebody else doing that? That's you're super heroic.
Well, I try to keep up with them, everybody who's watching, we're talking about these things, and that way you guys don't have to go and find the links yourself. I miss some here and there, but that way we've got that, and we're providing, indie bookstores don't just provide books. We try and provide, a cultural hub and a learning environment, and, we're here with recommendations for you guys, and you guys are giving me recommendations. I've got a whole legal pad here of things you've said. Blackberry Bramble, Alex McMurray, Laura Lippman, Lost in Havana.
Definitely the Blackberry Bramble.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and I've, my first book, the Zydeco book, came out in 1998, and there are lots of. This is going to sound corny, but there are lots of ways to buy books, and we all know that there are some, ways to buy books that don't involve going to an independent bookstore. But my career would not exist but for independent bookstores. My best memories surrounding writing books would not exist except for independent bookstores. And with my father, when young, I really wanted that to be just an independent bookstore project. So that's going to be available. You can pre-order right now on Garden District. And some of my other friends in local indie stores in New Orleans as well have it available. And and if any other shops that want to. My barber Aiden Gill sells my Krazy Cat book, so maybe it'll be available in the barber shop too.
You never know where you're going to walk into and see one of your books.
Yeah. So.
The community around books and the book industry is absolutely the best part about working at an independent bookstore, and that includes everyone who's watching and the authors who are writing and participating in events like this with us, and my fellow booksellers. Octavia, Blue Cypress, Tubby and Coos. We can name them because we're all one. We're all one big family.
Something I felt like I was on Johnny Carson saying another network.
The truth is,
it's a great. With the new one, right? Baldwin Books is opening, and the new bookstore is opening.
Baldwin Books is opening tomorrow, I believe.
Tomorrow. That's
fantastic. Yeah. I don't know. I know very few details. One of my missions is to go introduce myself and find out more about them. So. Yeah,
it's a fantastic community. So. And like Raina, like you said, Raina, I'm happy to dash over to sign books, and they can be ordered and sent that way.
Absolutely. So yes, I will reiterate, you can get any of Michael's books at our bookstore and through our website. And his new book, My Father When Young, we're doing pre-orders for. You can call us, you can stop in, or you can just go to our website and do that. We'll have signed copies. We'll have personalized copies if you want those. Just let us know who you want them personalized to. And when it comes out May 18th, is that right?
May 18th, yep.
May 18th, we will have them ready. On a Tuesday, we release Tuesday.
I didn't know. I did not. These are the things I had to figure out for myself. Besides page weight and how many books to make, is that books come out on Tuesdays. So
So you had no idea that in the past all of your books have come out on Tuesday. That was just a coincidence.
I did not.
They just gave you a date. You're like, whatever, I'll be there.
Yeah. So Tuesday.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael, for joining me, and thank you everyone for watching and commenting.
Yes, absolutely, and thanks for the comments. And michaeltisserand.com, I can be contacted there, so people feel free to email me through the website. And
that comment's in here somewhere.
Yeah, good. Thanks, and thank you all for watching and commenting. Hey, Philip Foster, who's responsible for this book as much as anybody, is watching this.
Thank you, Philip.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Raina.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Good night.